We, Aries, 2026, the year your fire learns to choose. Aries, if you've arrived here, it's not by accident. Something inside you is no longer willing to live the same way. And I'm not talking about physical exhaustion. I'm talking about a deeper kind of fatigue. The fatigue of always reacting, of starting everything with force and ending up drained, of giving your all and still feeling unsatisfied. For a long time, you were told that your power was in moving fast, that hesitation was weakness, that slowing down meant losing. But look at this carefully, Aries. 2026 is not asking you for more fire. It's asking you, what you're using it for. This year doesn't push you forward, it forces you to become aware of how you move. And if you stay until the end of this video, you'll understand why the discomfort you've been feeling lately is not a mistake. It's the beginning of your real transformation. Because the impulsive version of Aries has no place in 2026. Shari, your greatest drain is not speed, it's automatic reaction. Aries, you don't overthink. You feel and you act. That has always been your strength, and also your blind spot. For years, you believed that reacting fast kept you safe, that striking first gave you control, that intensity protected you from being overlooked. But in 2026, that way of moving stops working. This is a year that exposes unconscious reactions, not because you are weak, but because you've outgrown them. You'll notice situations where reacting the old way makes things worse. Conversations that collapse because of one impulsive word. Decisions made in heat that push you backward instead of forward. The message is clear: not everything deserves your fire. In 2026, your growth begins the moment you choose not to react. Aries' unspoken fear, stillness. There's something you rarely admit. You don't fear failure, you fear emptiness. You fear not knowing what to do when there's no battle. You fear being alone with yourself, without movement. You fear what surfaces when action stops. That's why you move quickly. That's why you change direction often. That's why conflict sometimes becomes a substitute for purpose. But this year doesn't let you escape forward. There will be forced pauses, moments where life asks you to wait, times when pushing simply doesn't open doors. This is not punishment, it's training. 2026 teaches you that real power doesn't always advance. Sometimes it observes, feels, and chooses. The shadow of Aries, confusing intensity with truth. This is the most delicate part. Aries carries a deep shadow, the belief that everything intense must be true. If it hurts, it must matter. If it burns, it must be real. If it creates conflict, it must be important. But not everything that burns brings light. In 2026, you'll realize that many of your battles were unnecessary, that you fought to feel alive, that you clashed to avoid feeling small. And when that pattern collapses, fear appears. Who am I if I'm not fighting? This year answers clearly. You are someone who chooses where your energy goes. The warrior fights everything, the leader chooses. And that transition is uncomfortable, but it's inevitable. When reacting stops working, at some point in 2026, something shifts. It may be a relationship, a job, a project, or simply an internal realization. Reacting like you always did no longer works. Frustration rises, anger follows, a sense of lost control appears. But what you're actually losing is not power. It's an outdated identity. The identity of Aries who needed to dominate to exist. This year pushes you toward a more mature version of yourself, one that doesn't need to prove anything. Work, money, and purpose in 2026. Materially, 2026 asks one thing from you: focus. Fewer beginnings, more completions, less scattering your energy, more commitment to one direction. This year rewards the Aries who chooses one path, sustains a decision, respects personal limits. Money no longer comes from exhaustion, it comes from coherence. If something drains you, it's not aligned. If something energizes you steadily, that's the signal. Your body becomes your compass.